Good morning. And um, last week I forgot to do the Voices of Restoration, so we'll do it at the beginning of this week. Um, and then we'll start in on um, section 24, which is going to be the whole week. But it's even more reading than we had last week anyway. So I should have done this last week, or at the end of last week, but I forgot about it. Um, I don't know. I'll probably just read this one because it's two letters from Joseph Smith and Emma. While I'm present in Liberty, Missouri, if you think about the things Joseph had to suffer in there, um, uh, Joseph received letters informing him about the perilous situation of the saints who were being driven out of the state by the order of the governor. A poignant letter came from his wife Emma. Her words and Joseph's letters in response express both their sufferings and their faith during the difficult time in church history of the church. Just looking at the building that they had to stay in really makes you realize it wasn't a very good prison. And next to the prison that they're going to be in um, Carthage, um, this is really not a nice place. Um, and he is there for over 5 months. So let's get into it. Letter from Emma Smith to Joseph Smith, March 7th, 1839. So before the revelations that we had, um, that we just previously did. Dear husband, having an opportunity to send you by a friend, I hope, send by a friend, sorry, I make an attempt to write, but I shall not attempt to write my feelings altogether, for the situation in which you are, the walls and the bars and the bolts and the roiling rivers, the running streams, the rising hills, the sinking valleys, and the spreading prairies that separate us, the cruel injustice that first cast you into prison and still holds you there, will be, with many other considerations, place my feelings far beyond description. Was it not for the conscious innocence and the direct interposition of divine mercy, I am very sure I never would have been able to endure the scenes of suffering that I have passed through. But still I live, and am yet willing to suffer more, if it be the will of a kind heaven that I should for your sake. We are well at present, except Frederick, who is quite sick. Little Alexander, who is now in my arms, is one of the finest little fellows you ever saw in your life. He is so strong, with the assistance of a chair he will run around the room. No one but God knows the reflections of my mind and the feelings of my heart when I left our house and home, almost all of everything that we possess except our children, and took my journey out of the state of Missouri, leaving you shut up in that lonesome prison. But the recollection is more than human nature ought to bear. I hope there are better days to come to us yet. I am ever yours affectionately, Emma Smith. You can hear in those words the beauty of how much she loves Joseph and how much she had to endure at that time, and how she would keep enduring it as long as she knew that she was doing what was right and that she could see him again. Dear and affectionate wife, this is a letter from Joseph to Emma. This is April 4th, so this is a couple of weeks after he had written the sections that we've just read this week. Thursday night, or last week, Thursday night, I sat down as the sun is going down, as we peek through the grates of this lonesome prison, to write to you, that I might make known unto you my situation. It is I, it is, I believe, now about 5 months and 6 days since I have been under the grimace of a guard day and night, night and day, and within the walls and grates and squeaking iron doors of a lonesome, dark, dirty prison, with emotions known only to God, do I write this letter. The contemplations of the mind under these circumstances defies the pen or tongue or angels to describe or paint. To the human being who never experienced what we experience, we can think about it, but we really can't understand what they went through. We lean on the arm of Jehovah, none else, for our deliverance, and if he doesn't do it, it will not be done. You may be assured, for there is great thirsting for our blood in this state, not because we are guilty of anything, my dear Emma. I think of you and the children continually. I want to see little Frederick, Joseph, Julia, Alexander, Joanna, and old Major, the family dog. I would gladly walk from here to you, barefoot and bareheaded and half naked, to see you, and think it a great pleasure, and never count it toil. I bear with fortitude all my oppression. So do those who are with me. Not one of us have flinched yet. I want you to know, not let our children forget me. Tell them Father loves them with a perfect love, and he is doing all he can to get away from the mob to come to them. Tell them Father says they must be good children and mind their mothers. Yours, Joseph Smith, Jr. Again, you can feel the love he has for his wife. And also in both of these, you see how the description of this horrible place um, was the jail and the circumstances where he's just trying to get that last little bit of light to write to her before it fades. And I think there are people who have experienced probably worse, but very few that have experienced that and been innocent of it as well. So that's the a little bit about them. Now we're going to um, Nauvoo. Nauvoo the Beautiful, as they said, with many were. Well, let's read a little bit here again. Um, So again, we're only going to be in 124, and it's him trying to get back into the mainstream of the church again after being in prison. As difficult as the last 6 years had been for the saints, things started to look better in the spring of 1839. The refugee saints had found compassion among the citizens of Quincy, Illinois. Guards had allowed Joseph Smith and other church leaders to escape captivity in Missouri. That's a good story. I don't see a reference to that, but I do know when I've looked into it, basically they just turned a blind eye and said, okay, well, because they were taking them to somewhere. Um, as far as Joseph Smith and the others were concerned, they were taking them to uh, a hearing or something. Um, and on the way, the guards just kind of like, we're going to look over here. If you guys aren't here when we're gone, then, you know, that that's what happened. And if you think about it, it's the only way they could have escaped, really, because it sounds like when they're in um, jail, there's always somebody around gawking in as if it was some sort of um, zoo or something to look at the animals. And so to get them away from there and away from people who are just coming to look at them and persecute them that way is probably the only way they could escape captivity. Um, and it didn't, and really, since they didn't have anything on them, it's probably the only thing that Missourians could do to keep them. Or, I mean, how else are they going to keep them, and how are they going to um, justify keeping people in prison for 5 months, over 5 months? Um, so there's a lot of pluses to them escaping at the time. Anyway, and the church had just purchased land in Illinois where the saints could gather. Yes, it was swampy, it was mosquito infested land, but compared to the challenges the saints had already faced, this probably seemed manageable. So they drained the swamp, drafted a charter for the new city, which they named Nauvoo. It means beautiful in Hebrew, though it was more an expression of faith than accurate description, at least at first. Meanwhile, the Lord was impressing his prophet with a sense of urgency. He had more truths and ordinances to restore, and he needed a holy temple where he could crown his um, saints with honor and immortality and eternal life. Just to go to that section in section 24. And again, verily I say unto you, I command you again to build a house in my name, even in this place, that you may prove yourselves unto me that ye are faithful in all things whatsoever I command you, that I may bless you and crown you with honor and immortality and eternal life. He keeps asking that, even in these dire circumstances. Yet it becomes so important, and we can see that through what President Nelson has done, how important it is for the work to continue and for temples to be built. In many ways, these same feelings of faith and urgency are evident in the Lord's work today. And we can see saints, like I said, I'm not going to read saints very much because it's too much. And this week we're going to go through 124 and see what what the Lord wants for them in Nauvoo and the new temple that they will build. But Joseph won't see the completion of. And so I hope as you go throughout this day that you think about how much Emma stood by Joseph during all this, and also the blessings that we can receive, even when it seems like we're in swamp and mosquito infested places, metaphorically speaking. In our lives, we may be able to find the good in anything that we're doing and look to God to help us. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.